All right, guys. This is episode 14 of the Soulscast, the Dark Souls podcast, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, whatever, any type of those games, with myself, Adam Blue, and Shane Norton.
Hello.
It's actually been a while. School started for the kids. I started a new job. Boy, have things been busy. And not that I haven't had time to do this, it's just more of I'm the type where I prefer to play games. So like if I can't get my time in to play a game, I'm going to do that over the cast. But then I'm like, I need to get this done. I need to get my my weekly Souls talking in.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, sure.
I'm playing the Souls games less. I think I've got that Souls fatigue. I was playing Demon Souls a whole lot. This is the last Souls game I need to play. I'm near the... I wouldn't say near the end, maybe more than halfway through. I got to a part that's a little difficult. Nothing that I can't, get past. Obviously, I'm a pro by now. But I was just like, you know what? I will just get back to this a little. Let me play some other things. And we'll actually get into that next. So, what we've been playing, I've been playing Destiny, which is a good break from... all that is Souls. I don't play many first-person shooters unless they're just really good.
It's about as different as you can get.
And I didn't like Destiny originally at all. This new Taken King with the expansions, with the updates, the changes they made, faster leveling, more items to get. It's a lot better. It reminds me of playing Dark Souls 2 because there were so many weapons and stats to look at. It's like that. And then real quick, the other game I've been playing is called Grey Goo, which sounds kind of weird, but it is a weird name. I still don't know why they chose that name, even though that's the name of an enemy. It's basically another RTS, another Command and Conquer RTS, but made by Petroglyph Games, which is ex-Westwood Studios people. So it's, in the same vein as Command and Conquer. And I love those games. And this game is actually really good. I'm super impressed by it. I want to do a video. I just haven't had time. But, and Shane, since we haven't done this Soulscast, we haven't really had long talks lately.
No,
it's
not
been a while.
really. Yeah, it has.
So, what have you been playing?
Not much. Actually,
not much?
Well... not much variety. I've basically just been playing Dark Souls 2, still going through the Scholar of the First Sin. I'm pretty close to the end.
Nice.
The main game, I'm actually at the very end. I need to do a couple optional bosses and then go through 2 more DLCs. So hopefully in the next few weeks I'll have that finished. I was playing Lords of the Fallen. I haven't touched it in probably like a month. I decided I need to take a break from it. I wanted to get through Dark Souls 2 first because Lords of the Fallen was really aggravating me with how much different it was from Dark Souls, and for whatever stupid reason I was trying to play it like Dark Souls. So I just wanted to take a break from that. Otherwise, I just bought and re-downloaded.
Yeah, especially going back and forth.
No, well, yeah, that's what made it so annoying, because I would play Dark Souls 2 one night, then the next night play Lords of the Fallen, and Lords of the Fallen is very similar to Souls. It's different enough where it's just very frustrating trying to roll through an attack, because the rolling is a little bit different and all this other garbage. So I'm gonna take a break. Once I get through Dark Souls 2, I'll try to commit my time fully to Lords of the Fallen.
Cool.
I did just download Child of Light for the PS4. I did play it on the PS3 several months ago, and it's a fabulous game. Very, very, very fun. Very beautiful. It's maybe the best looking game. Maybe the best looking game I've ever seen. It's like a turn-based RPG, but it's very, very cool. So I'm gonna restart it.
Does that sound fun to me? I am not a fan. Turn-based RPG lost me.
No, it might not be up your alley. I'm gonna start playing it again soon. I will record and upload my boss battles, so you can check out one of those. There's not,
Why are the boss battles unique in it? In some way?
they're unique.
Or it's at least like old school in the way where they because a lot of these games nowadays, the boss, there's either not bosses or they're just kind of throwaway.
No, they're not throwaway. They're I got through probably the first third of the game when I played it on PS3, and I fought like maybe 3 bosses, and they were pretty difficult. And they were pretty unique. They weren't like stupid throwaways. They were like, one was a big 3-headed. It was like a Hydra basically, and there was one like a big giant. So I will upload those because they're fairly interesting, especially if you like the game. So that would be fun. So I'll still do that. I still have been uploading all my Dark Souls 2 boss stuff, which I just uploaded one.
That's right.
Tonight. So I've still been doing that, but
yeah, I saw it. I already saw it actually. I liked it. I remember that boss being pretty tough. I think I summoned on that. I want to say that there was a story character summon in that area.
Yeah, I think there probably is.
Yeah. Okay, well, cool. Okay, well, so for episode 14 of the Soulscast, we're going to go over beginner's tips. So this is beginner's tips in the sense of first time playing Souls games or going through with a new character, because I do think it applies. A lot of times the beginning of the games can be the grind. Like the beginnings of the games are like, well, I just got to get through this stuff, got to do this stuff. Shane, if you want to take it away, take it away.
Yeah, sure. I made I actually made the file for this tonight, so the
novel
had a few. Yeah, I typed out the 18,000 words. I thought of a couple different talking points that I thought would be relevant to go over, and I guess I would start with, this is more someone that has never played a Souls game, but thinks they might like it because you see it. Souls games are getting pretty big now. They're still niche, but Dark Souls 3 is way more hype around it than Demon Souls had. So if you're someone that's never played Souls, maybe you see it on the video game websites. IGN always has articles. GameSpot. The most recent Game Informer magazine was Dark Souls 3 on the cover. So, maybe you played it, but you see it and you're like, I kind of like these games like this, like, action RPG, almost hack and slash, but not hack and slash. So, I kind of wanted to...
Right, it's very weird. Like, I think there are people that are playing these games that are RPG lovers, like... They like I hear, like, what's a good RPG to get? Oh, get Dark Souls. Me, I would never say that. For me, it would be like, if I'm asking, hey, what's a good action game that's, like, real action?
Yeah.
That, like, your movement matters. Like a real action game, I would say Dark Souls. Like, it's strange how you could say both ends.
No, that's
something like this.
That's a great point, because if someone is asking me about RPGs, I would probably mention Dark Souls, with the caveat that it's not turn-based, and it's not like a Diablo hack and slash. It's a slow, everything counts. The movement counts, and maybe more so than in any other game, at least that I've played. So, I would say, I feel like people, and I've read this online, like on the forums that I look at, some people are just too intimidated by like the aura of the games and like their supposed difficulty and all this. There's some people just like won't buy them. They'll say, oh, these games look too hard, or I've read stuff and they just seem too hard, so I'm not going to play them. And I would say, basically ignore that. It's true to a point, but if it makes you not even just try the game, like rent it or borrow it from a friend, like just try it at least once. They're hard.
I would even say, so if you're like that much, and not necessarily against it, but just it's that intimidating where you're like, man, I don't even want to begin.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with busting out a guide or going on the internet, or because our tips aren't going to be that involved, but go on the internet and look at a walkthrough.
Yeah,
just
sure.
Look at a walkthrough that says go here first, go here second, get this item first, that might be the jump start to get you into finishing the game and then taking the rest of the games head on. I definitely think so.
Yeah, because you can be a person where you can, you might be a little apprehensive to play, and you might not be that good at the start, and then you hit a point where it's like a jump start, like you did basically with Bloodborne, how it was a very a slow experience where you weren't sure you were gonna like it, and you didn't really like the other ones, but you're still playing it, and then all of a sudden, something clicked, and then that was it, and now we're doing the podcast.
Well, yeah. So let's start with that. So best game for a new player to start with. Okay. So this is going to be with my experience. I didn't get the Souls games, and they were too slow, so I could never get through it. Bloodborne was just a little bit faster, to where I was willing to keep doing it, just because then there's always a sense of action, even if you're constantly dying. Just because there were more enemies coming at you at once, there's no blocking, so it's always being aggressive.
Yeah.
Once you get past that initial understanding, it is very much a Souls game. Because
definitely,
after going through Bloodborne and then playing Dark Souls 2, and Demon Souls, I'm like, wow, these games are different. They're the same, but they're different. It's just I have to block more. But then, like, once you get later on in the Souls games, other than Bloodborne, you realize you can play them like Bloodborne. Yeah. Once you got that confidence, and once you understand your build, and so that's why, and I see this a lot. I see this when I'm looking on the forums, because I think Bloodborne is, even though I think it's very similar, especially to Demon Souls, in my opinion, Bloodborne and Demon Souls are very similar.
Yep.
I think Bloodborne is just different enough for that to be a starting point for a lot of people new to the series. It's just a lot more action to give you that instant gratification, that instant satisfaction to want to keep playing, because you're going to die all the time. That's just how it is.
Yeah, sure. And I think that's... I wonder if they made the game like that on purpose, where... compared to the other three, it's probably the most accessible. It's the easiest to get into. It's the easiest for someone that's never ever played them to get into. My wife and I played through Bloodborne on a character together. We would take turns. She'd never played the Souls game. She'd always, I've been playing them for a while, and she'd always see me play them and sighing like, oh, you're playing this game again. But she played Bloodborne. She played Bloodborne, and she loved it. And she and I played through it together. We were playing through the DLC together when it comes out. So she loved it. I don't think I'm going to be getting her to play the other ones, but I'll take Bloodborne.
Okay.
I wonder if they probably did. They made it a little more accessible. So people that have never ever played, totally new fans, they can kind of hook them in. So I think Bloodborne is a great starting point for the series. Otherwise, I would say you might as well just start at the beginning. I think Demon Souls is a good start if you've never played any of them. I would say play them in order. Demon Souls, then Dark Souls 1 and 2, and then Bloodborne. It was my first, and it's... I want to say the least complicated of the games. Some of the mechanics are more complicated than some of the other games, like the world tendencies is pretty confusing, and took me a long time.
I don't even get.
It took me a long time to really understand it. But as far as magic goes and weapons, there's not as much magic and there's not as many weapons. I think there's the least amount, at least in the 3 Souls games. So you can it's the least confusing to figure out where to go, because you don't. It's not like a big open world. It's
Yeah.
There's
from where you're going with this, it almost sounds like Dark Souls is the best one to start with if you want to jump in head first and get the hardest stuff out of the way.
Yeah. Sure.
Because of all the exploring in Dark Souls and the lack of fast travel at the beginning, and yeah, definitely.
And and not to say that there isn't exploring in Demon Souls, because there definitely is, but compared to Dark Souls, Demon Souls, you're in a hub world, and there's 5 different basically paths that you can go, and each path is like I almost equate it to like a straight line. There's like the nexus is a circle, and then there's the 5 worlds that are just straight lines heading out. You get to the end of one, and then you just come back. So you're never really confused as to where to go. There's nothing like esoteric or weird about, you know, where to go. Even like Dark Souls, you have to ring bells, and then you have to find Sen's Fortress and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, from that stance, Demon Souls might be able to get into a little easier. It's still a pretty tough game. Some of the worlds, you know, again, like World 5 is, I think, quite difficult. Shrine of Storms, I think, is very, very hard. But, I don't know. I think it'd be a good starting point. I started there, and it's and then you get to you can pick up on some of the things that carry over from game to game. Some of like the callbacks and the similar themes, and some of like the similar weapons and characters, like patches and all that kind of stuff. So you get to kind of see that progression, which is kind of neat. I mean, not necessary, but it's kind of neat. So I'd say Bloodborne is a great start. Otherwise, Demon Souls is probably is also a great start. And I think you can make the case that any of the 4 games could be a good starting point, because Dark Souls 2, if you've never played one, is, like you said, more like that, like the adventure kind of style, and, you know, you can respec your character and all that kind of stuff. And so I can see any of them.
Okay. Well, let's get past like general tips for the games, because at the end of the day, they're all pretty similar. And yeah, again, Shane, you've written so much here that I'm probably going to learn something new. If you want to start with all this.
Yeah, when I was coming up with this, I at first I wanted to do like tips for specific games, and I have some of that stuff below, but that was too overwhelming, because there's a lot of different things you can do for each. So I was just thinking like, what are tips that can basically carry through every game? So I think probably the most important thing out of all of them is don't get impatient. I don't know if you can call that a tip. I guess you can call it a tip. It's advice. Don't get impatient. Some of the battles, you know, with the enemies, but especially with the bosses, can be very, very, very frustrating, and they can only be won through patience. And this doesn't really apply to Bloodborne necessarily, but, you know, that's fine.
True.
But, you know, Demon Souls...
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, real quick. So, like, in the Shield games, you can be a lot more patient, because you can use a shield. With Bloodborne, I would almost say a good general tip for Bloodborne is the opposite. Be aggressive.
No, it is. I actually wrote that, like the exact thing.
Oh, okay. Because if you stay too far back, and sometimes this happens in Dark Souls, depending on the distance you are, enemies will use their like wider ranged attacks.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I think that's a good general rule, that patience. Yeah, you say especially with bosses, but yeah, I would see with any enemy. I just think of Dark Souls. You walk down the wrong way to the catacombs, and you come across skeletons. Hold up that shield and be patient.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, even right there, think of a person that's never ever played Souls games. Their very first, you know, they create a character, they walk to the left, they go down to the catacombs, they get killed by the skeletons, and they think, this game is way too hard, I'm never going to play it again. You know,
that's what happened to me.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure that happened to probably thousands of people. They said, wow, this game is way harder than I was expecting, I'm done. You know, little did they know if they just went the other way, it's like the beginning, almost tutorial kind of area. So even that applies. Be patient. If you go to an area that seems way too hard, you're probably underleveled. So, and you know, especially fighting bosses, I can't tell you how many times I've had a boss down to like, you know, one hit to kill him, and then I'm just trying to rush to finish the battle, and then I get killed, and you know, that's very frustrating. So be patient. And then again, like you mentioned, the shield is very helpful when you first start playing the games. All throughout Demon Souls, all throughout Dark Souls, and throughout probably 90% of my Dark Souls 2 playthrough, I was going with a shield. I had a sword, and then I would hide behind the shield, and it worked out great. It wasn't really until Bloodborne, or maybe some of the Dark Souls 2 DLC, that I started to not use the shield. Because obviously Bloodborne, you can't use a shield. And then Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 2, I think I just was using a weapon that I like to use two-handed. But if you're starting out, the shield is great, and it's very helpful. And you obviously don't have to use it, but until you get comfortable, it's good to use. So I think that's another good thing to use. And again, shields are very plentiful in the Souls games, at least.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I would say magic is can be very overpowered. So it's one of those things where if you're like really stuck, you can, if you have the right stats, I guess. If you're really stuck, like
maybe go farm a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of get some magic stats up. Kind of use like the fire. Stuff that can kind of help.
Yeah, because that you don't really need the stats for. So the magic.
Although I gotta say that I've never really done the magic. I've always been melee. Would you say though that if someone was starting off with a new build in these games, it's easier to go strength melee, or is it easier just to go magic? Like at the end of the day, what's easier?
I started with melee, like straight up just getting in the face and attacking with a sword or whatever. It's kind of funny because I'm saying here magic can be overpowered. When I start a new character in any of the games and I want to be like a straight up mage, I usually have a very, very difficult time because you only have so much magic or so many spell casts, so you're sitting there using Soul Spear, and it's really powerful, but you can only use it 10 times and then it runs out. So I'm like trying to figure out how many spell casts of Soul Spear to use on this enemy before I have to hit him with my weak sword or something. So for me personally, I find the straight magic to be very, very difficult. In general, probably if you haven't played the games and you're not used to the melee, the magic is probably easier because you can stand back, you can create some distance between yourself and the enemy or the boss. So maybe it's easier to heal. You can stand back and just whip, whatever the hell it is, like lightning spear at them, which a lot of people seem to do online. And that's fine.
So that's like one of those things where it's like, you might want to go melee like me and you typically do, but a good general tip is, you can kind of like use some magic sometimes.
Yeah.
To kind of help you get over a bump.
Yeah, and
I've never done it though. I'm always too scared to waste a point on magic.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it takes a few before you can actually get it to do something. I'm always too scared. Always.
No, yeah, I'm trying to think. It's probably in Dark Souls. Definitely in Dark Souls 2, but probably in the first one. You need the attunement slots to equip the magic, and you have to level that up a bunch of times before you can get all your magic. So you definitely have to take points away from strength or dexterity or health or anything like that. I'm not usually too good with straight magic builds, but I've had a lot of instances where I've used magic to just magic buffs, put magic or fire on my sword or something like that. So in general it comes in very handy. So that's something I think a first-time player, it would be good to know. Just use magic, and people will cry and bitch about it, you're spamming magic, but just play the game the way you want and don't worry about people online.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, something you have here which I think makes sense, and you know what? This even makes sense in two different ways. So you say explore.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's the biggest deal here. You take your time to explore, and you will find things. You will...
Yeah, you definitely will.
Find... And you just won't even realize. You'll be like, wow, I came across some awesome armor. I came across an awesome weapon. But I would also apply explore to reading. And it's almost the same thing.
Yes.
Read everything.
Definitely.
I've noticed... And this also happens... It's funny, I always think Zelda games are similar in this way. In the Zelda games, just sometimes I'll come across something, and I don't get what I'm doing. And then later on, I realize this is something I read about.
Yeah.
In some way, character dialogue. And it's really big in the Souls games. And every time, and this happens all the time when I'm playing the Souls games, is something will happen, it'll take me a while to figure out, and I'm like, dang it, I read it. Or I would have read it if I just looked. Like, it happens all the time. And this is part of that explore. So if you're not reading something, you better be looking around, because you will find hidden bonfires. You will find anything, you know?
Yeah, like
weapons.
Yeah, hidden doors, hidden areas.
Yes, doors. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to come off as a hypocrite, because I'm usually really bad with exploring, and I generally don't find a lot of I generally don't find a lot of things myself. I do try, but in these games you really need to be pretty thorough as far as like actually exploring the world. You know, explore every nook and cranny, everything that can be broken, like barrels and boxes. You know, break them, because sometimes there's items in them. Sometimes there's a bunch of barrels that are concealing like a small little path that you can take. Especially in like the beginning of Bloodborne, I remember there was one area that there's like barrels in front of like a little path that you couldn't see otherwise.
Yeah.
And then again, like you said, with reading, you know, read everything. It sounds like a lot, like every single item you get, read the description. And again, that's something I'm guilty of not doing. I try to, but sometimes I forget, or sometimes I don't care to. But especially if you're a new player, read everything. Besides it giving you clues to the world and the characters and the story and the lore, sometimes it just tells you what the thing is, so you know, like a key. The keys, they'll be vague, but they'll basically tell you where you need to use them, and like certain armor has special effects that it will tell you about in the description. So it's obviously very important. So explore and read definitely is a good thing to do.
Yeah, no, definitely. All right, and another thing that's very easy to happen, especially when you get to like bosses, is getting discouraged.
Yes. Yes, it is.
I see that's one of your points here.
Yeah.
And that does happen. I mean, early in Souls, it's funny.
Especially
it's
early.
funny because this will happen to everybody. When you're playing a Souls game, you'll come across a boss where you will tell yourself, "Fuck this game. I'm never gonna play it again."
Yep.
I will never play it again, okay? But what's cool about what just happened to you is when that happens in a later game, you're going to be like, fuck this game, but I'll come back in about 5 minutes and end up beating it. You know, it's like one of those things. That's just what's so funny about the Souls games, because it is in you to do it. I think that's what's neat about these games, because they are hard. But for some reason, everyone that tries gets through it. So,
yeah, exactly.
The game's built for you to master it as long as you don't get discouraged.
Yeah, it doesn't help you if you're fighting a boss and you fight him 40 times and you get killed 40 times, and you're obviously going to start getting pissed off, and, you know, that's fine. Even if you need to, like, put it down and walk away for, like, a full day, like, you know, don't play it for a day, 2 days even, just, you know, get your mind off it for a bit, come back, you'd probably be better. Maybe you won't. Still might be very hard. You know, even in those instances, just summon help. Even if it's the crappy NPCs that do like 50 damage, if nothing else, they have absurd health, and they take the focus off of you and put it on them if you're fighting the boss. Yeah. So even just that can help.
And then that can kind of give you an idea of like how to fight that boss, so then like you'll just do your next playthrough and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to try to take this boss on by myself now. I get an idea of how it works. But yeah, so about this discouragement though, I see that you put here some people just, it's not for them.
You know? Yeah. Sometimes I think that's just true.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting because, so like my brother, Sean, he plays everything. And he's even played Souls, hasn't got too far, couldn't get into it. Then all of a sudden I'm into these games like crazy, and I still can't talk him into playing them. He just won't. Like, I wish there was some way. I know that if I get him over that hump, that he would play it and then he would love it. But yeah, that's, you know, there's people that say it's not for them. And if that's, I think it's easy for people to say it might not be for them if they don't realize it is. But again, there could be, for some people, it's just not their game, but I really think there's something about the Souls games that everyone just, you can't hate. Like, who hates Mickey Mouse? I don't think anyone, like, will say they hate Mickey Mouse. You just
probably
can't.
not.
Even if,
no.
Yeah, you just can't. No. There's just something special about, he's been around for so long, he's always represented cool stuff.
Yeah, sure.
I think this is a weird comparison, but I think Souls is just kind of like that. Like, it's one of those games where it's like, you can't play Souls and be like, man, this game's just messed up. Because the developers did a great job making a masterful game. But I'd be serious. I'd be interested to meet someone who the game, it's not for them, but why. I want to know why. And that they've legitimately tried, you know?
Yeah.
I think that'd be interesting. So I like your pre-final. I see that you have 2 finals.
Yeah.
I like your pre-final that is to play your first playthrough blind. And you know what? That is definitely true. Like, I could say the only game I'm playing through blind is Demon's Souls. And it is a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah.
You know, Bloodborne being my first real attempt at a Souls game, I had to look up stuff to get through. I was looking up, like, what's the best way to deal with the guys at the bonfire?
Yep.
I was looking up, like, what's the best way to deal with those 2 wolves on the bridge?
Yep.
How do you fight the clear? Like, I had to look that up, and they'd say, go get this. There's a hidden weapon here, hidden weapon there. Whatever. Dark Souls, I was trying to, but I was getting lost. Because the game, Dark Souls does that. You get lost. You don't know where you're going. You don't know if you're going. So I actually looked up a kind of like a path someone put up.
Okay.
Like, you should go here first, then here, then here.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I didn't play that blind. And no, I guess for the most part, Dark Souls 2, it's hard to not play Dark Souls 2 blind because how bonfires are real close to each other and there's a lot of them and they kind of just...
There's a lot, yeah.
Unlock, yeah. And then Demon's Souls, I'm doing that right now, and I did look up a couple things, just some, like, strategy. There is... You know that part... I keep forgetting the name. You know, it's that castle with the rolling skeletons.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And the flying things, it's like... What is that called?
Shrine of Storms.
Yes,
World 4
okay.
there? Yeah. Yeah, that place is rough.
That it's so hard to get to the boss. So I got to the boss, and instead of going through the fog gate, I said, you know what? I have so many souls, I'm going to go back. But I should have just went to the boss because it was easy. Now, here's what I had to look up was if there was a shortcut to get to the boss.
Uh-huh.
And that level actually doesn't have a shortcut, but there is kind of a way... I don't know if this was intended or not, but if you don't have any armor on, you can do a roll when you're at the top of the wall. You can do a roll that pretty much skips the whole game, the whole level.
Yeah, yep.
And I don't know if that was really intended, but that was my non-blind playthrough.
It probably wasn't, but I know what you're talking about, and I've used that before, too. It's very helpful.
Yeah. So, in your opinion, why... why did you put blind, a blind playthrough as a big deal for first-timers?
I'm going to come off as hypocritical, which I do probably a lot here in this specific episode. My personal experience, I didn't play through much of any of them blind. I'll save a lot of this for our Demon's Souls episode, but when I got Demon's Souls, I almost stopped playing it in the first couple hours because I couldn't beat the very first level. But I had a friend who was playing it, and he actually had a friend who was playing it. So for the first almost half of the game, I would just he would summon me into his game, and the 3 of us would play together. It was a lot of fun, but they basically just did everything because they were they were good at the game, and they were pretty overpowered compared to me. So they were just running through everyone. So I learned a lot of little tricks and stuff like that. But and I still had to look stuff up in that game. And Dark Souls, I had to look stuff up. Dark Souls 2, I tried very hard not to look stuff up, but I was just so obsessed that I couldn't stop myself from reading. And then Bloodborne, which we just recently have been playing through, I had to look stuff up because there's some weird things in that game. I have never had the experience of being able to play it totally blind and like just figuring something out, because I'm bad at it. My brain doesn't work that way. I don't have the patience for it, which is something I talked about earlier. So,
well, there's something else that it made me think of, because like playing through blind might work for a certain type of player that, let's say that it's not that big of a deal to like get past that hump and get that kickstart in to get through the game. Maybe the world building element is a bigger deal for you to get you into a game. Then you might want to do that. Play the game blind, because then by playing it blind and learning everything on your own, you're going to find this world that's amazing, full of story, full of character, and that might be all you need to get you into the game.
Yeah, I think you can probably connect yourself to the game and attach yourself to the game even more if you play through, let's say, Dark Souls for the very first time and you play through the whole thing without a walkthrough. You're probably going to miss a whole bunch of stuff, but then you can go back on New Game Plus, open up a walkthrough, and go through every area. You know, you hit the painted world of Ariamis, and you'll find the other the Ash Lake, or Ash Lake and the Great Hollow.
Oh, right.
And all that stuff. So I never got an opportunity to play through the games as blind as I wanted to, but just the sense of discovery you get when you find out something, it's great, and I think it could strengthen a bond you have with a game, which sounds a little bit silly.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and I think 99% of the players out there, you're going to have to look stuff up if you want to experience all the content in these games.
Yeah.
I could be completely wrong, but I don't think it is typical for a player to find everything on their own. I don't think that's typical.
No, I don't think so. I think you'd have to be some sort of person that would, scour.
You'd be a wizard.
Yeah, but exactly.
You're a wizard.
Yeah, just wizard your way right through it.
Right. So the final note of yours is an interesting one. So you say don't kill NPCs. So from what I've learned from watching Epic Namebro, he's doing this playthrough of Dark Souls. He's going through and getting all the dialogue from all the characters in Dark Souls. And what's interesting is, by talking to everyone over and over, you might think they're done, but keep talking. You're going to start quests of a character. So they'll show up somewhere else. They will give you items.
Yeah.
They will unlock areas. They will open areas. These characters do stuff. Like, that's in every Souls game, it's like this. Now, there seems to be some, though, that you could kill, right? Like Patches, for instance.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure on all his quest stuff, but so that's what's interesting about these games. So it's like, don't kill NPCs, I think, is perfect. And if you go in blind, you won't sometimes know who you can or can't kill.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, just don't do it. Anyway.
Yeah. And
I think you can kill some characters and it's okay, but if you're playing for the first time, don't.
No, that's I should amend it a tiny bit. There are a few NPCs that you can kill that it's recommended you kill, which actually I'm going to talk about very soon.
Oh, there's some that's recommended. See, that I didn't know.
There's like one, at least in the Souls games, Demons, Dark Souls 1 and 2, there's a specific NPC character who, if you like free him from wherever he is, he'll basically go around and kill other NPC characters. But I'm even talking about like vendors and stuff. Like, if you accidentally hit one, then that's it. Gone for the rest of the game. So like...
Yeah, when I was looking at beginners tips, someone's like, if you want this real strong, it's like the Uchi Katana.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's called. It's like, kill the vendor at, where was that? At the Undead Burg.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. But then doing that, when I was reading tips later, they're like, go to the vendor at Undead Burg in order to get... And I'm like, well, shit, I can't get to him anymore.
Yeah, I think that that's different from a lot of games where you either can't kill vendors and NPCs or they don't die, but every NPC besides the ones that push the story forward will die. So any NPC. So obviously, like the Maiden in Black through Demon Souls, I don't think you can kill. And like the Emerald Herald in Dark Souls 2, you can't kill. You can't kill the
Dawn.
Yeah, actually, I never tried.
I think you can kill them, but I think they come back or something.
Yeah, but any vendor. I think
it's something. I don't know.
Any
Why
vendor,
would you do that?
No, exactly. She's so nice. Any vendors, any kind of NPC characters you can talk to, you can kill. So if you're like putting your controller down in front of one, be very careful. You don't, especially on like the PS4, because the L2 and R2 bumpers are like right in the back. You can put your controller down and it hits R2, and then you're swinging and you're standing in front of an NPC, and all of a sudden that NPC is aggroed towards you, and you can't talk to him for the rest of the game. So that's really it. Just be very careful. Don't.
All right. Well,
just don't do it.
Let's talk about tips from specific games. Now, you might have some more than me, but let me go through a few of mine.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me think of Dark Souls, because I've played through Dark Souls twice. Not even a New Game Plus. I made a whole new character. That's how much I like Dark Souls.
Yeah.
The first time, I went through the graveyard part that you shouldn't go through, but you just run, don't fight a skeleton, and just pick up everything you can. Circle around that. There's a big tombstone, and there's a Zweihander, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah.
Is it Zweihander or Zweihander? Anyway.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
That sword carried me through the entire game of Dark Souls. Leveling that up all the way, I beat everything in Dark Souls the first time. The second time, I got the Claymore so there's this dragon on the bridge you kind of see pretty early in the game.
Yeah.
It's after, the first boss, I think. It's after the first boss.
Yes.
Or so? Or is it the second? No, is it before? No. Whatever, I think it's the first boss, yeah. So there's that dragon that, kind of breathes fire on the bridge and then lands up top. You can get underneath, get a bow and some arrows, a lot of arrows, and shoot at the tail if you want to get the dragon sword.
Yeah.
That's a good...
Yeah, that's a great tip, because
weapon.
I used that in my first playthrough, and it helped me quite a bit.
Did you use it through the whole game?
No, I didn't. I used it through at least the first couple hours.
Okay.
It's way overpowered for the beginning kind of weapons, but once you get farther, it's not worth it anymore. But if you're really having trouble in the beginning of Dark Souls, use a bunch of arrows, shoot off the giant. I think he's red. The giant red dragon's tail. You'll be good to go for a long time.
And so, with the same dragon, if you go up the stairs where the bridge is, and you kind of get him to fly down, you kind of mess with him for a while, get him to fly down, as he's coming down, you can actually run past him and not get hit.
Okay.
You got to be quick, he'll breathe fire. Anyway, you'll go to where there's a bonfire, actually.
Yeah.
There's a bonfire there, which I never got my first playthrough. And back there's a Claymore. Now, the Claymore... I had a better time with that than the Zweihander, and I used the Claymore the whole second game. My whole second playthrough, I used the Claymore, upgraded all the way, and that thing did wonders. So
I bet.
I think that's an easy way to go. Those three weapons for the beginning of Dark Souls. And you can actually, this is something else I do. So I use the Elite Knight armor the whole time.
Yep.
I think it's great armor. You can actually... run, if you want to, run all the way to Darkroot Basin.
Yeah.
I think it is. And you're going to come across an area where there's the giant knights that kind of get up and stand up. I think it's there. There's just armor laying around that you can just pick up. And that's another area you can just run through. You don't even have to fight anything if you just want to get that armor real quick.
Yeah.
And get through. And one final tip for a beginner in Dark Souls, which I think this applies to even, in my opinion, kind of, even if you've already experienced it, you can choose your item.
Yeah.
You make your character, you choose your first item. I say get the Master Key. This is why.
That's a great tip.
You can skip Blighttown Pretty much.
Yeah.
You can skip the hardest part of Blighttown, get down to Poison Swamp to fight the Queen. A good reason to go through Blighttown is if you want a Firekeeper Soul, which you can use for your Estus.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I didn't bother doing that for my second playthrough at all. I just skipped Blight. I actually didn't have the key the second playthrough. You can go a long way. A real long way to get around. It's like past the first blacksmith, and then you go through all that stuff. There's forget the way exactly. You can go down, but you got to go past dragons. There's a whole bunch of stuff.
Yep.
And that's what I had to do actually to get over there. Because Blighttown, I mean, maybe on PC it's better because I have the 60 frames per second and all that high resolution with the DS fix.
Yeah.
But on 360, that frame rate was so bad.
No,
I just could not stand. Oh.
No, on PS3, it's rough.
I think. But here's something. I guess if you want a real good challenge, play through Blighttown on a console.
Yeah.
You know, with dropped frames, it's so dark you can't even see. And I even had my Elgato Game Capture HD plugged in so I can record, and that actually darkens the picture. I bought this device on eBay that's going to come here soon that allows me to split the HDMI cable. One will go to, and it's like it powers it, so it's like an amplifier.
Okay.
One will go to my Elgato HD for my PC, and then one will go to my TV, so it amplifies the signal. I don't have to worry about any of that. Yeah, because the games get incredibly dark for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, for Dark Souls 1, that was my thing. Let me let you go for a little bit, and then I might bring up some stuff for Bloodborne.
I have a couple. We already kind of talked about Bloodborne. I said for Bloodborne, be aggressive. It's kind of the opposite of the other games, but just be aggressive. And I generally found I had a lot more success, like being right up in a lot of bosses' faces and just wailing them, as opposed to kind of playing it safe. So I'll get that one out of the way real fast. In Dark Souls 1 and 2, and this is something I didn't know for probably like my first 2 playthroughs of Dark Souls, you can chug the Estus flasks like one after another. Like on PS3 and PS4, which is what I play them on. I don't know what the equivalent button is on the 360, but you hit.
It's X.
X, okay. So you hit. Now I'm drawing a blank. Is it square to use the Estus? Yeah. So you hit square or X to use Estus, and then if you immediately hit it again, he'll like take 2 chugs, and there's no time in between, so you can heal a large amount of your health in a very short amount of time, which that's nice, and I didn't know about that, for a while.
Yeah.
It's very simple, but it's pretty helpful.
That is actually, and it's funny you say that because I started doing that subconsciously, where I was always watching for that fill.
Yeah.
Chug. Like I try not to use too much unless my health gets low, for the Estus flask.
Yeah.
And that's funny. It's like a thing I watch for.
Well, see, I didn't know you could do it because most other items you can't take 2 in really quick succession,
I think I accidentally discovered it because I was so desperate to get
you
in
just
that
slamming the button.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Mine are kind of all over the place as far as the games. I will say just in general, Demon Souls World 5, we might have talked about it for a second. It's called Valley of Defilement. The bosses are all very weak to fire. They're made incredibly easy if you just either use fire magic or put fire on your sword or your weapon.
I don't know why, but I couldn't on my weapons. When I do it, the guy does that thing where he
shrugs.
Tries to, and then he shakes. Yeah, and I don't know why. So I was like, okay.
If you have a special weapon, you can't do it. What weapon are you using? Are you using a spear or something?
I'm using a spear and the crescent falchion. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I think I use the spear the majority of the time. I had the thing for it. It's a charcoal or something like that, and I remember I was trying to. I think maybe I did eventually. Maybe there was something I needed to do. Anyway,
I'm not sure.
Anyway, I remember. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, fire. I've gotten through the first 2 bosses there, and I didn't get a chance to. But it's good to know that, because I do think those places are very tedious.
Yeah, they're like the hardest areas in the game, but the bosses are super easy. The Leechmonger and the Dirty Colossus, I believe. And then the final boss is even easier than them, really, and you don't need to use anything for her. But
okay, so the Man-Eater, is that?
Yeah, have you?
Is that the one? I think so. Is it the 2 guys and they fly?
Yeah, they're like the first gargoyle battle, basically, like in the Souls game.
For me, that was the hardest boss in Demon's Souls so far.
I would say, have you fought Flame Lurker? He's the boss.
I did the second boss in the
the tunnel, the Stonefang tunnel.
Yeah, that one wasn't bad. Actually, even the first time I played him, it wasn't too bad. It was taking so long, so I was like, well, I'll come back when I have one more powerful.
He is actually he's very weak to magic, actually. So if you have magic for Flame Lurker, there you go. That hurts him pretty good.
Okay. But you're saying here for the Man-Eater. Wait, let me see this. If you have enough arrows, you can stand outside the boss gate?
Yeah, so if you get up to the fog gate,
wow.
If you have, I don't know how many arrows, you need a lot, you can stand to like the extreme far right, and you can shoot through the fog gate, and you can see one of the Man-Eaters standing way in the back, and you can hit him with an arrow, and it takes off like, 20 or 40 health, so you need a lot of arrows. But you can kill one before you even go through the fog gate, so then when you go through the fog gate, you only have to fight one, because the other one's already been killed. And that's actually
that
something.
Would be so much easier.
That's actually something that the guys I was playing with, when I referenced earlier, my friends, they showed me that. So that's how I knew about it. Mm-hmm. I did that on my very first playthrough. Otherwise, I tend to just fight them, the 2-on-1.
Oh man,
it's very, very hard.
You know what I hated? Not only was that boss hard, but getting to the boss, you had to go up that staircase that had the head sucker.
Yep.
Oh my god. So this boss is the Tower of Latria enemies, actually, on this area. So they're in the first area, and if you watch my Demon's Souls playthrough, you can see where I'm playing through that part. It's like the squid head guys, and they can shoot magic at you that takes off a lot, even if you're trying to use a shield. Yep. But then if they get you, they can grab you, and then they can pretty much, if they don't kill you, the animation of you falling and getting back up, by then they're doing their next attack. Okay?
Yeah.
And what's funny is this is very, so similar to an enemy in Demon's Souls, nearly the same. It's an upper cathedral ward, the same enemy, the brain suckers.
Yeah, they're very, very, very similar.
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot, it's even down to the characters. The game's very similar. But anyway, that part, I would have a tip to where you shoot the guy with an arrow. I've been able to dodge past him once or twice.
Yeah, I've done that.
Oh, God. It's like if I did that, I can get through the rest of the game.
Seriously, that's one of the hardest parts.
Yeah. All right, so what else you got?
I got 2 more things here, and I know there's a million different things you can talk about for every single game, but this is what I got. This is all just off the top of my head. The illusory walls in Dark Souls, and in Dark Souls 2, they're invisible. Well, not invisible.
Oh, right.
They're like the doors that open up in the walls. In Dark Souls, you have to attack them to activate them. So if you're swinging your sword and you hit the wall and then the door opens. In Dark Souls 2, you have to press a button, on the PS3 it's X.
Right, it's weird.
Yeah, so you have to
A on.
Yeah, so it's
Xbox. That's weird how they changed it like that.
The same button to open up a treasure chest. Dark Souls 3, they're going back to attacking it to open those doors. So I actually like that.
I'm glad they're doing that.
Finally, I have one final thing which I mentioned earlier. There's certain NPC characters that are locked away in Demons, Dark Souls, and Dark Souls 2, and if you free them, they essentially just murder most of the other NPCs. Spoiler alert, I guess, for people that haven't played the game, which maybe this is kind of bad for beginners.
I took Yurt out. He was in Tower of Latria, the second part. He was in a cage, and I got him out.
Is that all you did with him? Did you do anything else with him? Because
he was just walking around.
Yeah, he'll walk around and then he'll go back to the Nexus, and eventually he just starts murdering all the NPCs in the Nexus.
Wow,
so I'd watch
that's actually kind of cool.
So
I haven't seen that happen though, because I've done a few things since then, and I've been back to the Nexus, and everyone seems to be intact.
All right, well, I would keep checking up on it, unless I'm very wrong. I don't think I am, but now I'm gonna have to check on that. But I always kill Yurt when I see him. Sorry, Lautrec, I think is how you pronounce it. Lautrec of Karam from Dark Souls, who looks almost exactly like Yurt from Demon Souls. If you free him, he kills the Firekeeper that's at whatever the hell the first that first bonfire.
Oh, Firelink Shrine.
Firelink
Shrine. Down
Jesus.
right in front of the. He's down right in front of the bars to the cell of the Firekeeper. Yeah.
Yeah. So he kills her.
Wait. So you can avoid that whole storyline when you're at right before Ornstein, Smo, where so you can avoid that whole thing.
Oh yeah.
I guess so, because what happens is if he's alive, he kills her, and then when you're in Orlando and you're about to fight Ornstein and Smo, you get that indication that there's you use the orb and then you go into the other world and you fight him. But I guess if you kill him, then that never happens.
Oh yeah. If you free him, you can kill him, and then you don't have to worry about all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's a hard battle too when you have to fight him and when you invade his world and fight him.
I know.
It sucks.
Yeah.
There's another character in Dark Souls 2 towards middle end of the game. I think he's in Aldia's Keep. His name is Royal Sorcerer Navlin. He's similar. He asks you to carry out assassination quests, and he invades your world, I think. So those NPCs just either.
What does that guy look like? Because I don't remember.
I don't know what he looks like. I don't remember. I've only interacted with him once. He's in a cell in Aldia's Keep.
Oh, I remember that. I remember seeing the thing. Yeah, don't trust him.
Yeah.
And okay. Oh, and then I guess is he the guy that invades you right before the dragon boss, where the Cyclops busts through the wall, and you're
Maybe.
oh my god, I just fought a bunch of Cyclops, and then he because there's an invader that happens then.
Yeah, he might be. I know he can invade you in a bunch of different areas.
Okay, but that actually brings up something you might have mentioned it and I forgot, but because I read the thing that said don't trust him, the soap sign. So that's another beginner tip. Read. We said read everything, but that even includes the signs on the ground.
Yes, they are usually very helpful. Occasionally, people will put a sign that says jump right in front of a cliff, and there's nothing there. But usually, if you're a beginner, just read the signs. They're almost always helpful.
Well, you know what? That also brings up another point. So there's so many things in these Souls games that you can never find on your own. But if you happen to be in the right world where there's the right soapstone signs, whatever you call them, down on the ground, you might get all the hints you need to find all the crazy stuff if you really,
No, yeah, that's definitely possible. I've found several things just because I read a message that some other player left, and they're very, very helpful. So you can definitely go through the game and glean lots of information from just the messages that players leave.
Okay, I just read something. He does invade where the Cyclops breaks through the second wall.
Okay.
And that pissed me off because that part was so hard with all the Cyclopses, and then this guy invades, and I'm like, what the? But I don't remember any other invasion in that game being difficult. It looks like, according to what I'm reading, he invades in other earlier parts of the game.
Oh, really?
Oh, and then I remember I went back to test Ladora on the bridge over the spikes. I remember I did that after I pretty much beat the game to look for stuff, and I remember getting invaded. Okay, so yeah, it's very interesting how they do that, how this guy, Aldius Keep, that was later in the game for me. And you can free him.
Yeah.
And he will show up, but in earlier parts of the game. Like Forest of the Fallen Giants. You have no reason to go back there.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's weird.
Huh. Okay. Okay, did you have anything else to
add? No, not really. I just realized that I'm, at least towards the end, I think we've been pretty good about not, like, spoiling anything, because I did say try to play through the game blind, and then here I am 10 minutes later talking about these NPCs that are, like, murdering other NPCs. Like, if you're playing it blind, you were not going to know that Yurt or Lautrec are, bad guys. So, sorry about that.
Yeah.
But no, that's all I have. That's all I have right now.
Okay. I feel like we're leaving out Bloodborne, but Bloodborne, in a way, it's pretty linear at the beginning, I would say, where, that's a lot of people's complaints about the weapons. I would say that a good beginner tip, because there's so many enemies at the beginning of Bloodborne, especially at the bonfire, is to use the whip.
Yeah.
Use the cane, the threaded cane, because I actually beat the entire game with the threaded cane. It's just that that distance it has. You can a wide sweep.
Yeah, no.
If it might not kill the enemies immediately, but you will get some range. It will allow you, and it's serrated, so that actually does extra damage on beasts.
Yeah,
it's something they don't. You don't see that stat, but it actually does.
It's great crowd control, and especially at the beginning where you're getting mobbed by like 4 or 5, at that big giant bonfire where there's like 15 guys there. So the threaded cane really kicks ass for that. If nothing else, for the beginning of the game, but you can certainly play through the whole game with it, obviously.
Yeah. Okay, well, that will be it for this episode. It's kind of funny because I was like, I can't take too much time on this. I got a lot to do, but we hit an hour, man. It's like you can't not talk so much about Souls.
I know.
It's just how it is.
It's almost impossible not to like to stop.
And you know what?
Like...
I want to do a quick shout out to Liquid Fear. I was playing Destiny online the other day or the other night, and I jumped into this game randomly with these people to get a raid done, and this guy's like, hey, because my name is Blue Gamer on PSN, he's like, man, that name's familiar. And he goes, hey man, don't you do the Soulscast? And that made me feel really good that a listener out there was playing Destiny, playing a game, a fellow Souls bro, a Sun bro.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's like the greatest thing ever.
It's really good. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, all right, guys, thanks for listening. I'm glad we were able to do this next one. Hopefully we can start doing them a lot more frequently. New information on Bloodborne DLC and Dark Souls 3 came out, so hopefully maybe the next episode we will talk about this new information.
Yeah, I'd like to. Sounds good.
So, all right, guys, we will talk to you later.
Bye-bye.